I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that you're standing right in the middle of the main street of this quiet, sleepy little town.
Okay. Like a real rural village.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say it has like maybe 10,000 people tops. It's the kind of place where, the cobblestones have literally been there for centuries.
Right.
You actually know the name of the person baking your bread. All the local shops close firmly at noon on a Sunday. And the tallest, most imposing building in the entire valley is probably just the spire of the local church.
It's the absolute definition of the periphery.
Exactly. You get the picture. It's quiet. It's isolated.
Very slow moving.
Right. But now into this perfectly preserved, slow-moving diorama, I want you to drop a massive, multi-billion-dollar high-speed rail line.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just boom. It cuts right through the edge of this town. A pristine, gleaming glass and steel station just goes up overnight.
Quite the visual contrast there.
It really is.
Yeah.
And suddenly, this quiet village is connected directly by a bullet train traveling at like 300 kilometers an hour to a massive, bustling, neon-lit metropolis just down the line.
We're talking skyscrapers, global finance, millions of people.
Exactly. So here is the big question for you listening. What do you think happens to that small town?
Well, I mean, if you ask almost anyone from a casual observer to a seasoned urban planner, the answer feels completely obvious.
It really does. It feels like gravity.
It feels like gravity. You assume the big city is going to just eat the small town alive.
Right. It's what we casually call the siphon effect. Common sense tells us that the metropolis acts like this giant, irresistible vacuum cleaner.
Exactly.
If you suddenly build a super fast, completely frictionless pipe connecting a massive economic center to a tiny village, the city is just going to suck all the youth, all the top-tier talent, and all the economic life right out of that small town.
The ambitious kids are going to get on that train and they are never going to come back.
Never. The local businesses will just dry up. Because, well, everyone will just ride into the metropolis to shop, to dine, to work.
The town just shrivels.
The town shrivels.
Yeah.
But, and here is where this deep dive gets incredibly exciting here, is the face-slapping reality.
The plot twist.
The ultimate plot twist. It doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. And that is a stunning subversion of everything we thought we knew about infrastructure.
It is completely anti-common sense.
It really is. I mean, we have traditionally thought of infrastructure as something that inevitably, almost ruthlessly, feeds the center at the expense of the periphery.
Right.
It's often referred to under this umbrella of agglomeration theory.
Okay, let's just pause there for a second. Agglomeration theory.
Yeah.
For those of us who, don't spend our weekends reading urban planning textbooks, what exactly is the mechanism there? Why does everyone assume the center always wins?
Think of it like mass in physics.
Right.
A larger object just exerts a stronger gravitational pull.
Okay. Like Jupiter pulling in asteroids.
Exactly. In economics, a large city has more specialized firms, a bigger pool of workers, more consumers. So when you improve the roads or build a faster train, you lower the cost of transport.
Makes sense.
Traditional models basically assumed that when transport costs drop, companies will naturally look at the map and say, well, why are we sitting out here in the middle of nowhere?
Right. Let's go where the action is.
Let's relocate to the high-efficiency metropolis. That's where all the clients are, the networking. They move to the center, and they take all the jobs and the output with them.
Leaving the periphery stripped completely bare.
Exactly. That was the assumption.
It makes perfect logical sense. It's why all roads lead to Rome,
Right.
right? But like we said, when you step out of those theoretical models and actually look at the hard data of how human beings behave.
When time and space actually collapse.
Yes. That whole gravity model just falls completely apart. That giant vacuum cleaner, it's actually running in reverse.
And the reason we can say this with such absolute certainty is that we aren't just speculating here. We aren't relying on a small survey of 100 people.
No, we have the ultimate receipts for this.
We really do. We are looking at a landmark, incredibly rigorous 34-page spatial economics study published by the National Bureau of Economic Research, the NBER.
The gold standard for this stuff.
Absolutely. It was authored by Daniel F. Heuermann from the University of Regensburg and Johannes F. Schmieder from Boston University.
And their methodology is what makes this so bulletproof, right? I mean, they didn't just run some computer simulation.
No.
They didn't just stand on a train platform with a clipboard asking people where they were going today. They literally tracked the commuting trajectories of every single worker in Germany.
Over an 11-year period.
Wait, I really want to emphasize the scale of that for you listening.
Yeah.
Every single worker.
Every single one.
They didn't take a sample. How do you even get access to the spatial choices of an entire nation's workforce for over a decade?
Well, they utilize deeply anonymized administrative records from the Federal Employment Agency of Germany.
Okay, so official records.
Right. This isn't survey data, which, is prone to human error or people just lying about their commute.
People always lie about their commute. Oh, it only takes me 20 minutes. Sure it does.
Exactly. But this is official, tax-paying, registered employment data. They knew exactly where every worker lived, precisely where their office was located, and how those two geographic points shifted between 1999 and 2010.
Right, as the German high-speed rail network was aggressively expanding across the country.
Exactly.
So, to lay out the mission for this deep dive, we are going to unpack how physical distance, a network of bullet trains, and honestly, a whole lot of completely accidental political maneuvering.
Oh, the politics of this are wild.
So wild. We're going to show how all of that proved that when you build a high-speed bridge between a giant metropolis and a tiny village, the elite talent actually flows backwards.
The small towns become the silent winners of the infrastructure game.
Yes. But to truly grasp how Heuermann and Schmieder dismantled this siphon myth, we first have to appreciate the sheer raw scale of what was happening in the German labor market during this specific 11-year window.
Right. We aren't talking about a marginal shift here. The entire landscape of commuting just exploded.
Let's look at that macro trend.
Yeah.
Because when you introduce high-speed rail, the very concept of a commute fundamentally changes.
Absolutely. Over this 1999 to 2010 period, the absolute number of cross-border commuters, meaning people who legally reside in one county but travel to an entirely different county for work.
Right.
That number climbed to over 10 million workers.
10 million.
Yeah. The cross-county commuting rate went from 27% of the entire German workforce in 1999 to a staggering 33% by 2010.
A third of the country.
A full third.
That is a massive chunk of a highly developed nation's workforce suddenly deciding that their bedroom and their office no longer need to be in the same zip code or even the same region.
Right. You have millions of people suddenly treating long-distance travel as just a totally normal part of their morning routine.
Okay, but under that traditional agglomeration theory, we discussed the gravity model. Where would you expect all these millions of highly mobile workers to be heading?
Well, you'd expect them to be piling into Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt, and Hamburg.
Right. You'd expect the trains heading into the city at 8 a.m. to be packed shoulder to shoulder, and the trains heading out to the countryside to be completely empty.
Ghost trains. But the data revealed the plot twist.
The face slapper.
The ultimate face slapper. Despite this massive overall growth in commuting, the ultimate destination for the fastest growing segment of these highly motivated workers was not the crowded, neon-lit metropolises.
Where were they going?
Tens of thousands of them were heading into obscure peripheral counties, small towns.
It's like watching a river suddenly decide to flow up a mountain.
It really is. It totally defies the logic of gravity.
Why on earth are tens of thousands of top-tier talents fighting traffic, or rather, catching high-speed trains to travel away from the economic capitals every single morning?
Right.
You have people waking up in expensive apartments in Berlin or Munich, grabbing a coffee, and at 7 a.m., they're getting on a train to go to a town that most Germans probably couldn't even point to on a map.
What's fascinating here is the spatial distribution of the job growth.
Okay, unpack that.
The overall employment in Germany was growing, but where those jobs were being filled was changing radically. As you would expect, the sheer number of commuters naturally decreases with travel time. People generally prefer shorter commutes.
Sure, nobody wants to commute if they don't have to.
Right, but as the Intercity Express, or ICE, high-speed rail network expanded, the share of workers willing to cross major regional borders spiked.
Right.
And the net flow, the real dramatic growth rate, was pushing out of the city centers, not into them.
Okay, I have to stop you there. Because as a natural skeptic, my immediate pushback is about causality.
Ah, the causality trap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're saying that because they built these trains, people started reverse commuting to small towns. But, I mean, couldn't it just be the other way around?
How do you mean?
Couldn't these small towns just be getting richer, creating jobs on their own, and the train company simply decided to build a station there to cash in on the boom? How do we know the train actually caused the behavior?
That is the perfect question. And it brings us to one of the most frustrating, notoriously difficult puzzles in all of data science and economics.
Right.
It's what researchers call the endogeneity problem,
Yeah.
or, to put it more simply, the causality trap.
The causality trap. It sounds like a bad sci-fi movie. But this is the core of why most infrastructure studies are fundamentally flawed.
Precisely. Let's use a really simple metaphor.
I love a good metaphor.
If you look at a city street and you see a lot of people holding open umbrellas, and you also see that it is raining,
Right.
you could technically look at that data and conclude that opening an umbrella causes water to fall from the sky.
Right. Because the two events are perfectly correlated. They always happen at the exact same time. Umbrella opens, rain falls.
Exactly. But obviously, the rain caused the umbrellas, not the other way around.
Right.
In spatial economics, infrastructure and economic growth have the exact same problem. If you look at the data, you see a massive, shiny new train station, and you see high economic activity and lots of commuters.
But how do you separate the cause from the effect?
Right. If a town already has a massive amount of commuters and a booming local industry, the government naturally says, hey, we need to build a high-capacity station here to handle the traffic.
So if a researcher just measures the correlation, their data is hopelessly biased.
Totally biased.
They might proudly publish a paper saying, look, the new train created 10,000 jobs, when in reality, the 10,000 jobs were already there, and those workers just lobbied the government for a train station.
You've hit the nail on the head. To prove that the infrastructure itself physically changes human behavior, the researchers needed a statistical miracle.
A miracle.
They needed what economists call an exogenous shock.
Which basically means they needed to find a train station in the real world that was completely random.
Completely random.
They needed a station that was built for absolutely no logical economic reason. Not because of commuter demand, not because of local industry, not because of population density, just pure accidental luck.
Yes.
But let's be real. Governments don't just spend billions of dollars dropping high-speed rail stations into random farm fields. How do you find that?
You find it in the spectacular bureaucracy of the German Intercity Express, the ICE network.
Oh, this is my favorite part. The history of this train network is just wildly entertaining when you look at it through the lens of an economist begging for randomized data.
It really is.
Walk us through the two waves of the German ICE.
Let's break it down. Wave 1 of the German ICE expansion happened between 1991 and 1998. Now, this wave was totally logical and completely predictable.
Makes sense.
The central planners looked at the map of Germany and connected the big boys. Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Cologne, Frankfurt. By 1998, all the major metropolitan hubs were connected.
So if you're looking for random data here, you wouldn't find it.
No, not at all. The stations went exactly where the massive economic demand already existed.
It was the umbrella opening because it was already raining.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
But then comes Wave 2, from 1999 to 2010. And Wave 2 is where the master plan breaks down into complete political chaos.
Total chaos.
It became a political lottery. What happened was, to build these new high-speed connecting lines between the major hubs established in Wave 1, the physical tracks had to run through several different German states, the Länder.
Right.
And under the German funding structure, the federal government didn't foot the whole bill. These state governments had to contribute heavily to pay for the massive track upgrades and environmental mitigations.
And politicians being politicians, you can guess exactly what happened.
Oh, absolutely.
The state governors looked at the plans and said, wait a minute. You want us to spend millions of euros of our taxpayers' money upgrading tracks just so a bullet train from Berlin can blast through our state at 300 kilometers an hour without even stopping?
Right. They were furious.
Absolutely not. If we pay for the track, you have to put a station in our state.
Precisely. They aggressively demanded stops in their territories as a return on their investment.
Which is totally understandable politically.
Politically, yes. Economically, a nightmare. So the final locations of these new Wave 2 stops were not decided by economic logic. They weren't decided by commuter forecasts or cost-benefit analyses of future labor markets or optimal distance metrics.
What were they decided by?
They were decided by intense political lobbying, backroom compromises, regional pride, and in some cases, outright legal injunctions and lawsuits.
That is amazing. The researchers actually dug into the legal framework of this period, and they point out that the prevailing legal provisions for these projects literally failed to consider future demand as a criterion.
It wasn't even on the checklist.
The decisions were based almost entirely on local environmental impacts, maintenance cost sharing, and political arm twisting.
The ultimate example of this, the absolute poster child for this political lottery, is a town called Montebar.
Oh, let's paint a picture of Montebar, because this is hilarious.
Please do.
We are talking about a town with barely 12,000 residents. If you look at it on paper, there is absolutely zero economic justification to build a multi-million-dollar high-speed rail stop here.
None.
It didn't have a booming commuter base. It didn't have heavy industry crying out for a global connection. It was just a quiet, pleasant town with a nice castle.
Yet Montebar won the lottery.
Wow.
Because it happened to be located right along the path of the new, highly contested route being built between the major cities of Frankfurt and Cologne. The state of Rhineland-Palatinate, where Montebar is located, demanded a tangible return on their massive financial contribution to the track construction.
They wanted their piece of the pie.
Exactly. So through sheer political luck, geographic coincidence, and fierce local lobbying, this tiny town of 12,000 people was suddenly endowed with a world-class, futuristic, high-speed rail station in 2002.
It's like winning the infrastructure lottery. The NBER researchers explicitly note that the assignment of these specific stations was completely independent of future commuter numbers. It was a purely accidental injection of world-class infrastructure.
And that, for an economist, is the holy grail.
Right, because you finally have your randomized trial.
You now have your accidental stations. You have what they call a purely exogenous shock to the travel time of a specific region. You can finally strip away the causality trap entirely.
Because Montebar didn't get a station because its economy was growing. It got stationed because of a political temper tantrum.
Exactly. Therefore, whatever happens next to Montebar's economy and its commuting patterns is purely 100% caused by the arrival of the train.
Wow. Okay, so we have our accidental stations. We've bypassed the umbrella problem completely. Now we need to look at what actually happened to the human beings living near these stations when the concept of time and distance suddenly collapsed.
Right. And to do that perfectly, the study leans on another incredibly rare, almost miraculous feature of the German ICE network.
Miraculous how?
It serves as the perfect instrumental variable for economists because the ICE train network is 100% passenger. It carries zero freight.
None. Zero cargo. Which, if you think about most global infrastructure, is highly unusual.
It's extremely rare.
Usually when a country upgrades its national rail lines or builds a massive new interstate highway, you have a massive mixing of variables.
Everything gets tangled.
Right. If a town booms after a highway is built, you can't tell if it's because the local workers can travel to new jobs easier or because the local factories can now ship their manufactured goods to the ports 20% cheaper. It all gets muddied up.
Exactly. Transport infrastructure usually jointly affects the mobility of workers and the mobility of goods. It impacts the labor market and the trade market simultaneously.
It's a mess to untangle.
But in Germany, the ICE was engineered exclusively for people. The technical idea of using it for high-speed freight was discarded in the very early stages of its technological development.
Wow.
So this completely isolates the movement of human capital from the movement of physical goods. It is a pure, unadulterated measurement of human mobility.
Okay, so we have a purely random station carrying only human beings with no trade variables muddying the waters. This is the perfect petri dish.
It really is.
Let's zoom in on what happened. Let's look at what we can call the Montebar-Seeburg miracle.
Okay, yes. This is a deep dive the researchers did into the 2002 opening of that specific Frankfurt-Cologne line.
So Seeburg is a larger, more established town on the line. It has about 41,000 people.
Right.
And Montebar is our tiny 12,000-person lottery winner.
Right. So before the high-speed line opened in 2002, the travel time between these two towns was agonizing.
How bad was it?
If you wanted to take the regional train, it took nearly 4 hours.
4 hours. For one way.
One way. They were, for all practical purposes, completely disconnected labor markets. I mean, no one, no matter how good the job is commuting 4 hours each way every single day.
You'd have to wake up at 3 a.m. just to make a 9 a.m. meeting? That's not a commute. That's a road trip.
Exactly. But then they cut the ribbon on the new ICE line, and the travel time didn't just slowly decrease, it fell off a cliff.
It plummeted.
From nearly 4 hours, the travel time dropped down to 45 minutes on day one of the new timetable.
That is insane.
And as the schedules and train speeds optimized over the subsequent years, it eventually shrank to just 18 minutes.
18 minutes. Wait, let that really sink in for a second for you listening. A 4-hour, soul-crushing, half-a-day journey became an 18-minute zip.
You could practically hold your breath for that long.
Time literally collapsed between these two towns. Geographically, they were in the exact same physical space they always were, but temporally, they had just been teleported next door to each other.
And this is where we see the commuting reversal data jump off the page. The researchers looked at the flow of workers between these two newly connected towns.
Right.
And yes, overall commuting went up in both directions. That is entirely to be expected when travel time drops so dramatically.
Sure, people in Montebar started taking jobs in Siegburg, and people in Siegburg started taking jobs in Montebar.
But here is where the siphon effect gets completely dismantled.
Here comes the slap in the face.
If common sense and traditional agglomeration theory were true, the bigger town, Siegburg, with its larger economy and 41,000 people, should have sucked all the ambitious workers out of the smaller town, Montebar.
The giant vacuum cleaner should have turned on.
But the data shows the exact opposite.
What?
The growth rate of commuters traveling from the larger city of Siegburg to the smaller town of Montebar was massively higher.
Way higher.
Much higher. Before the high-speed train, there was a large commuting trade surplus in favor of the bigger city, meaning far more people left Montebar for Siegburg than the other way around.
Which is what you'd expect.
Right. But over the 4 years immediately following the opening of the ICE station, that surplus rapidly shrank by more than 50%.
The larger city was literally exporting its workers to the smaller town.
Yes. The line on the researchers' graph showing people commuting from Siegburg down to Montebar just shoots upward, persistently closing the historic gap.
The 12,000-person town was pulling talent out of the 41,000-person town. That is wild.
And crucially, this wasn't just an isolated, quirky incident between two random towns.
Right, because an anecdote isn't data.
Exactly. The researchers expanded this exact methodology to look across the entire Wave 2 network of the German ICE. This forms the first stage of their instrumental variable findings.
And what did they find when they zoomed out?
When they aggregated all the data, they found that a direct ICE connection / average commuting times across these newly connected relations by 9.5%.
Now, wait a minute. 9.5%. Let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
We just talked about Montebar going from 4 hours to 18 minutes, which is a massive drop. It's life-changing. But a 9.5% average.
That sounds small.
If my daily commute is 30 minutes, 9.5% is like saving under 3 minutes. Why should anyone care about a 3-minute difference? That doesn't sound like a civilization-altering number.
It's a completely fair pushback, but you have to view that 9.5% as an average across an entire national network of massive, complex distances.
Okay.
It includes thousands of people who might live an hour's drive away from the new train station itself. It includes routes where the train frequency or scheduling wasn't perfect yet. It is a baseline structural shift in the fabric of the entire country's geography.
Meaning what exactly?
It means that, on average, the entire country just got nearly 10% smaller.
Wow. Okay, I see. So the fundamental question we have to ask the data is, what does a 9.5% time save actually do to the human brain when it is deciding where to accept a job?
Exactly. Because it turns out human beings are incredibly, almost irrationally sensitive to that temporal boundary.
So sensitive.
This brings us to the core mathematical breakthrough of the paper, the elasticity finding.
I love a good elasticity finding.
The researchers were able to isolate exactly how sensitive commuters are to travel time. They found that for every 1% drop in travel time, the number of cross-regional commuters increases by 0.25%.
I want to break that down so we can really grasp the scale. Every 1% drop in time equals a 0.25% increase in humans willing to make the trip.
Right.
That means if a new train schedule shaves 10% off the commute time, you instantly see a 2.5% surge in the number of people crossing regional borders for work. That is a massive, highly responsive behavioral elasticity. People are just waiting for the excuse to travel.
And what's vital to understand here is that this elasticity highlights a catastrophic failure in how traditional economics had been viewing infrastructure.
How so?
The researchers compared their new findings against traditional statistical models.
Right. The paper mentions that if you just relied on traditional models, the kind that look at basic correlations without filtering for those accidental stations we talked about, you would completely miss this human behavior. Why is that? How could the old models be so wrong?
Because the traditional models, which rely on standard regression estimates, fail to control for the causality trap.
The rain and the umbrellas again.
Exactly. They look at all the stations, including the ones built in Wave 1 that went to already booming cities. Because the old models couldn't separate the accidental stations from the planned ones, they assumed people just weren't that responsive to the trains themselves.
They thought, well, the economy was already growing here, so the train didn't really change people's behavior much.
Right. The paper explicitly states that these traditional models underestimated the effect of the train by a factor of 5.
5 times. They were off by 500% because they couldn't separate the rain from the umbrellas.
Yes. By using those chaotic, politically accidental stations from Wave 2, Heuermann and Schmieder proved that the infrastructure itself, the sheer drop in travel time, creates a massive, measurable behavioral change in the workforce.
That is staggering. But I'm assuming this 1% rule doesn't just apply evenly across the board, right?
What do you mean?
Does this mean everyone, everywhere suddenly jumps on a train if you shave a few minutes off their trip? Like if my office is 10 minutes away, do I take a bullet train?
No, absolutely not. And this is where the researchers uncovered a fascinating spatial nonlinearity.
Okay, big words. Spatial nonlinearity.
Data forms a very distinct U-shaped curve. There is a very specific window of distance where this commuter psychology kicks into overdrive.
Walk us through the distances. Where does this actually matter?
Let's start with the short distances. If the commute between two towns is under 50 kilometers, the data shows that the people simply don't care about the high-speed rail.
The elasticity is flat.
Totally flat.
Which makes total sense when you think about the physical logistics. Because why would you take a bullet train for a 40-kilometer trip?
Right.
If it's under 50 kilometers, you just drive your car. By the time you walk from your house to the train station, find parking, stand on the platform, buy a ticket, wait for the train, and then walk from the destination station to your office.
You've wasted more time than the train saved.
Exactly. You could have just driven door to door and listened to a podcast.
Yeah.
The train offers no temporal advantage for short hops.
Exactly. On the other extreme, if the distance between two regions is over 600 kilometers, people also don't care about the train.
Again, human nature. Over 600 kilometers, even if the new bullet train drops the travel time by 10%, you are still left with a commute that is multiple hours long in each direction.
It's unbearable.
Nobody is doing a daily commute of 4 hours each way, even if it used to be 5 hours. It's just physically exhausting. If you get offered an amazing job 600 kilometers away, you don't try to commute.
What do?
You pack your bags, hire a moving van, and change your permanent residence.
Yeah.
Or you fly.
Exactly. But then the data reveals the sweet spot.
Ah, the sweet spot.
Between 200 to 550 kilometers.
Okay.
In this middle distance, the elasticity skyrockets. The absolute value of the elasticity jumps from a measly 0.05 all the way up to 0.8.
Wow. This is what I like to call the golden distance.
The golden distance.
The U-shaped curve in their data bottoms, out right in this zone. It reminds me of the Goldilocks zone in astronomy.
Oh, I like that.
You know, a planet can't be too close to its sun or the water boils off and it burns. It can't be too far away or it completely freezes into a block of ice. It has to be just the right distance to support life.
That's a brilliant analogy. For the high-speed commuter, 200 to 550 kilometers is that exact Goldilocks distance.
Because it's not too close and not too far.
Right. It is a distance where a daily commute is hopelessly too far for a car. You'd be driving in highway traffic for 3 or 4 hours each way, arriving completely exhausted.
Right.
But it is just fast enough on a 300-kilometer-an-hour bullet train to make a professional look at their watch and say, you know what? Yeah, I can actually do that.
Right.
I can sit in a comfortable seat, open my laptop, read a book, drink my coffee, and be at my desk in a little over an hour.
It fundamentally alters what a human being considers local.
It really does.
We are talking about people willingly traveling 300 kilometers for work every single day. Just to put that into perspective for an American audience, that is like commuting from New York City to Washington, D.C.
Right.
Or for a European audience, commuting from London to Paris, just for a normal Tuesday at the office. They do it, they go home, and they do it again on Wednesday.
But this brings up what is arguably the most crucial and most socially impactful question of the entire study.
Which is?
We know people are doing this. We know the high-speed train causes it. And we know exactly what distance they're willing to travel. But who are these people and why are they going the wrong way?
Yes. The wrong way.
Why are they leaving the metropolis to go to the small town instead of the other way around?
Right, because the data clearly shows that almost 100% of this HSR-driven commuting growth came from large to small city travel.
Almost all of it.
The reverse effect small-town residents commuting into the big city on the ICE train was comparatively microscopic. The siphon effect is completely upside down. So who are these people swimming upstream?
To figure out exactly why this was happening, the researchers had to dig even deeper into those federal employment records.
Because you need to know if they're moving or just commuting, right?
Exactly. They needed to see whether these people moved their homes or just changed their jobs. They isolated two distinct groups in their massive data set. People who kept their homes but changed their jobs, and people who kept their jobs but moved their homes.
Okay, the suspense is killing me. What do they find?
The finding here is the ultimate proof of what's happening on the ground. The entire surge in this reverse commuting is exclusively driven by people who kept their residences in the big cities and used the train to change their jobs to the small towns.
Let me repeat that. They stayed in the city and changed their job to the small town.
The statistical coefficient for commuting time was highly significant for workers with a constant place of residence, but virtually non-existent for those with a constant place of work.
Okay, let's translate that into human behavior. What does this reveal about the modern worker? To me, it reveals the intense psychology of what we can call the city mouse.
The city mouse, I like that.
These workers are fiercely protective of their urban lifestyle. They absolutely refuse to give up the big city amenities.
Right.
They want the culture, the independent theaters, the trendy coffee shops, the massive dating pool, the vibrant, chaotic urban energy. They want to live in the trendy neighborhoods of Berlin or Munich or Frankfurt.
But, and this is the key conflict, they also need the specific, highly specialized, lucrative career opportunities that happen to be geographically located in smaller peripheral towns.
So they want the absolute best of both worlds.
They want the metropolis for their soul and the small town for their career.
And before the high-speed rail, they had to choose.
Right.
You either lived in the city and took a generic job, or you moved to the quiet village to work at the specialized tech firm, but you gave up your social life.
You had to compromise.
But the high-speed rail allows them to hack the system. They don't have to compromise anymore.
And when we look at the specific demographic data of these reverse commuters, it paints an incredibly clear and somewhat surprising picture of exactly who is hacking the system.
Who is it?
They are an elite, positive selection of the workforce.
And this is where another stereotype just gets completely shattered.
How so?
Well, when we think of commuters in pop culture, we usually picture the weary middle-class worker who got priced out of the city center.
Right, the tired guy on the 6 a.m. local train.
Exactly. We picture someone forced to take a crowded, miserable train from the distant suburbs purely because urban rent is too high. But the German ICE reverse commuter is the exact opposite of that trope.
The demographic data shows these train riders are highly educated and highly compensated. They have double the university graduation rate of non-commuters.
Double.
Furthermore, they earn, on average, 20% higher wages than the local workforce.
These are highly paid elites. We are talking about research scientists, senior software engineers, top-tier corporate managers, and specialized consultants.
Right.
They're willingly choosing a massive 300-kilometer daily commute, not out of economic desperation or high rent, but as a luxury bridge.
A luxury bridge.
Is a high-speed bridge between their aesthetic, urban lifestyle, and their highly specialized, lucrative careers.
And that leads us to the next inevitable logical question.
Let me guess. Why are all these elite jobs in small towns in the first place?
Exactly. Why are all these high-paying, highly specialized, elite jobs located in tiny peripheral German towns in the first place? If these are the top 1% of specialized workers, why aren't their offices occupying the top floors of the glass skyscrapers in Frankfurt or Berlin?
This is where we have to zoom out and understand the incredibly unique, decentralized DNA of the German economy, because it's very different from the US or the UK.
Very different.
If you look at the UK, almost all the elite tech, finance, and media jobs are just hoovered up into London.
Right.
If you look at France, everything orbits around Paris. But Germany has a completely different historical and economic structure.
Germany is famous globally for what economists call the middle stand, and specifically its hidden champions.
Hidden champions. Explain that for us.
Unlike other highly centralized nations, Germany has massive, world-class, multinational corporations deeply and historically rooted in small peripheral towns. You have Audi, a global automotive titan headquartered in Ingolstadt. You have the massive Volkswagen empire dominating the town of Wolfsburg. You have precision optics and photonics giants like Genoptic based in Jena.
And these aren't just small regional branch offices.
No.
These are the global nerve centers and massive research and development campuses of multi-billion-dollar empires, literally sitting in towns surrounded by thick forests and quiet farmland.
And beyond those famous household names, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these highly specialized, world market-leading tech, engineering, and manufacturing firms scattered across the rural German periphery.
The hidden champions.
Exactly. These companies make the highly specific valves or lasers or microchips that run the global economy. And to maintain their global dominance, these companies desperately need elite talent.
They need the university graduates and senior engineers we just talked about.
Exactly.
But here is the existential threat for those rural companies. Without the high-speed rail network, these elite rural companies would be facing a catastrophic talent drought.
Why is that?
Because, as we established, the top-tier engineers and executives want to live the city mouse lifestyle.
Ah, right.
If the HR department at a tech firm in a 10,000-person town calls a top engineer in Berlin and says, "Hey, we have a great job for you, but you have to sell your city apartment and move to our quiet village where the sidewalks roll up at 6 p.m."
What does the engineer say?
That engineer is just going to hang up the phone. They won't take the job. The talent pool dries up.
Exactly. The local talent pool in a 10,000-person town is simply not deep enough to support a globally competitive tech or manufacturing firm.
Right.
The high-speed train acts as a physical fiber optic cable for human capital. It allows these peripheral, highly specialized companies to tap directly into the massive, diverse metropolitan brainpower without forcing that talent to physically relocate their families to the village.
That is such a great way to put it. A physical fiber optic cable.
The big city becomes the residential and consumption hub, and the rural village remains the specialized production lab.
The researchers actually point to a very famous, very tangible example of this happening every single day.
Oh, the Wolfsburg train.
Yes. There is an early morning ICE train that runs from the heart of Berlin straight to Wolfsburg. It covers over 200 kilometers in just over an hour.
And what does that train look like?
Every single morning, that specific train is absolutely packed with hundreds of elite executives, designers, and engineers commuting from the trendy, culturally vibrant neighborhoods of Berlin straight to the Volkswagen corporate headquarters.
Wow.
They work all day, and they are back in Berlin in time for dinner and a show.
This completely changes the calculus of what a transport network does to a nation. It doesn't drain the small town, it actually saves it from irrelevance.
It saves it.
It allows the small town to recruit intellectual capital on a global, metropolitan level, ensuring that the country's manufacturing and tech bases don't all have to physically migrate to the crowded capital city to survive.
And beyond the sheer economic genius of this setup, there is another massive bonus to this system that goes beyond just corporate recruiting and labor matching. There's a profound environmental structural shift happening here.
Ah, yes. The green bonus.
Let's talk about the green bonus, because this is huge.
The researchers didn't just track where people went, they tracked how they got there. They calculated what's known as the modal shift.
The change in the physical mode of transportation.
Right. Between 1999 and 2010, the sheer time savings and convenience generated by the high-speed rail convinced 91,500 people to completely abandon their personal cars and switch to the train for their cross-county commute.
Let's just pause on that number. Nearly 100,000 people looked at the new ICE train schedule, looked at their car keys, and said, "I'm done. I'm leaving the car in the garage, or I'm selling it entirely."
It is a massive structural shift in transit behavior.
I mean, that's incredible.
On the direct ICE line specifically, an astonishing 12.4% of all new commuters were converted to rail strictly because of the time reduction.
Wow.
The high-speed train didn't just create new commutes, it aggressively captured a massive market share from the existing, highly polluting highway system.
And this forces us to fundamentally challenge how we, as a society, evaluate these massive infrastructure projects.
How so?
When politicians debate whether or not to build high-speed rail, whether it's in Europe or California or anywhere else, they almost always just look at a very narrow accounting-based ledger.
Cost versus revenue.
Exactly. They ask,
Yeah.
how much did the concrete, the steel, and the land cost to build? And how much are we making back in direct ticket sales? It's a very simplistic profit and loss mindset.
But the NBER study shows that evaluating high-speed rails solely on ticket revenue fundamentally misunderstands what the infrastructure actually does.
Right. The real ledger is largely invisible to standard accounting.
Exactly. How do you accurately price the economic explosion of perfectly matching a country's smartest, most highly educated brains with specialized, geographically isolated rural labs?
You can't.
How do you calculate the exact financial return on investment of preventing a crippling talent drought at your biggest multi-billion-dollar manufacturing exporters?
You really can't put a simple number on it.
Yep.
And furthermore, how do you put a price tag on taking 90,000 gasoline-powered cars off the highway every single morning?
The environmental impact alone.
Think about the massive reduction in carbon emissions. Think about the drop in fatal traffic accidents.
All right.
Think about the unclogging of the commercial road network, which allows local freight to move faster. The cascading societal benefits are astronomical, but they don't show up in the railway's quarterly profit report.
It proves that high-speed rail is not just a transportation business.
What is it?
It is a macroeconomic spatial rebalancing tool.
I love that phrase. A macroeconomic spatial rebalancing tool. It completely shatters our understanding of what a transport network actually does to a country's map.
It really does.
So, as we wrap up this journey through the German labor market, if we connect all these data points to the bigger picture, what is the grand synthesis here? What is the ultimate truth revealed by Heuermann and Schmieder's 11 years of tracking every single worker?
The ultimate truth is that the death of distance does not mean big cities simply eat everything in their path.
The siphon effect is dead.
The siphon effect, that giant vacuum cleaner we feared at the beginning of this deep dive, is a myth in a high-speed world. When you shrink time drastically enough, the periphery doesn't die.
What does it do?
It specializes. It adapts.
We are looking at the birth of a brand new spatial division of labor. For centuries, human history dictated that you had to live exactly where you produced.
If you worked at the mill, you lived next to the mill.
Exactly. High-speed rail allows us to elegantly decouple consumption from production. The metropolis, the big city, becomes the place where you live, where you consume culture, where you socialize, where you date. It becomes the ultimate lifestyle hub.
And the small town, the periphery, becomes the highly specialized hub where you work, where you focus, and where you produce.
The two environments no longer have to fiercely compete for the same function. They can complement each other perfectly.
It is a beautiful symbiotic relationship connected by 300-kilometer-an-hour steel threads.
You know, looking at how drastically the train changed human behavior between 1999 and 2010, it really makes you think about where all of this is heading right now.
It absolutely raises a profound question about the future of our geographic identities.
Exactly. I want to leave you, the listener, with a lingering thought to chew on long after this deep dive ends.
Okay.
Today, we've explored how high-speed physical transport allowed this incredible decoupling of where we live and where we work. But right now, in our current era, we are living through an unprecedented explosion of high-speed digital transport.
Oh, absolutely. Remote work, Zoom, virtual reality, global instantaneous collaboration.
Exactly. The digital infrastructure is collapsing time and distance even further and even faster than those German ICE trains ever did.
That is a very valid point.
So as high-speed physical transport and high-speed digital transport continue to weave together and mature in the future, are we heading toward a world where the very concept of a single hometown completely disappears?
Wow.
Will everyone eventually have 2 or even 3 completely separate geographic identities? A massive city for their soul, a quiet village for their mind, and a digital cloud for their daily output.
It's a wild thought.
It really is. Keep exploring, keep questioning the map, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.